Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the Algebra 1 concept of domain and range of exponential functions. This is standard A.9A in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 41 off the 2019 released STAAR test. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. So we have part of an exponential function. We need to find the domain. All right, so when we're talking about an exponential function, we're typically looking at something that looks like this: y equals a times b to the x power. And unfortunately, domain and then its partner range, they're not defined for us anywhere on the mathematics chart. So, or any reference material. So we need to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what is the domain, because some of these answers are not going to be the domain, they're going to be the range. Let's get these terms defined, then we can find the domain. Because once we know what they are, it's pretty simple. So domain, which is what we're looking for in this problem, is the set of all possible independent variable values. So when we're talking about our independent variable values, these are the variables that we start with when we're trying to find an unknown, right? We're starting with that in our function or our equation. And typically we'll just use a shorthand to say those are our x values, right? So the x variable is considered the independent value, right? And the y then is going to be our range. That's going to be our dependent set of all possible dependent variable values. Because typically what we do in problems is we will, like especially in this one right here, we'll give you the a and the b and the x, and then you have to calculate for y, right? And that y depends on the a and the b and the x. So those are typically your y values. They're dependent variable values. Now that's going to be slightly different simply because sometimes if it's a function, it might be f of x, it might be g of x, it might be h of x, anything of x, just to show that it's a function. So that range sometimes is not simply the y, but the domain is always going to be your x values, and that's what we're looking for. So we're looking for our domain, and so let's just look across our x-axis here. We're looking side to side, and we see that this starts at a -2, and we notice that it is a closed circle. Now that's going to make a difference. So if you have a closed circle like that, that means we're going to include that number. So that means we're going to include -2 within the domain, right? So it's going to be either less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. If it's an open circle, then that means we're not going to include it. It's everything greater than or less than that particular number. So it's going to be a closed circle. That's why you see all of your possible answer choices have that equal to. And they're all going to be greater than or equal to, because when we're going this way to the right. And let's just see, it's greater than or equal to -2. So we would say x, since we're dealing with the domain, it's the x value. It's going to be greater than or equal to, and then what? -2. And so I see that right here on A. Take a look at D. D has everything except for, look, they've got the y rather than the x. So we need to know that the domain goes with the x values, the range goes with the y values. X and y are in alphabetical order. D comes before R. They're also in alphabetical order. That's one way to keep them straight. D comes before R. X comes before y. So we know it's not going to be this. And you're thinking, where's that 4.5 come from? Well, that's going to be your range, right? So remember, your range is your up and down. And so this right here is at about that 4.5 y value. And then it just simply goes up after that. So the range would be y is greater than or equal to 4.5, but we don't need that. We're looking for a. That's our